Hey guys, this is Blake with the Three Hand Hunter channel, and I am so excited to bring you this comparison. Now, I want to welcome you to the episode 3 of Ad Hoc Horology. And this is a special comparison. It's not a review, and it is definitely not a head-to-head or side-by-side. It's just a side-by-side, really, a look at two really iconic watches. This is what you'll see here is the Zenith Defy Classic, and on the left you'll have the Tissot PRX Powermatic 80. What you're going to notice is the similarities between the two. I had a friend of mine, or I have a friend of mine, that actually loaned me his Zenith, we had it sitting next to this Tissot, and we're like, wow, those watches are like brothers. Now, there's a lot of differences. You look at them and you go, they do look similar, but obviously there's so many differences. And I'm gonna kind of go through them with you. But I wanna say this, if you like videos that are off the cuff, that's what ad hoc is just kind of, for me, it's able to just do an off the cuff video that's unscripted and kind of show you some differences and some, we can all geek out on watches together. Hey, if you like that kind of content, make sure you like the video. Obviously, it helps the channel grow. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of these ad hoc episodes that I put together for you. And sit back and enjoy the next few minutes. All right, so let's talk a little bit about these two watches. Obviously, they're very different watches, but can you see the similarities between the two? I mean, it's amazing. You sit here and you ask the question, which came first? Was it the chicken or the egg? Or the chicken or the egg, or the egg or the chicken? Well, I know if you're a Zenith person, you're probably thinking, well, the Zenith Defy Classic came out first. Of course it did. Came out Basel World 2018. That's when it was released. It came out in this version, and then there was a skeleton version. And you're like, well, the PRX, it was debuted in 2021. First with the quartz version, then with the automatic version. So of course, the Zenith came first. But one thing that you may not know, and I'm sure a lot of you do know this, the PRX was actually made from, it was originally the vintage Tissot C-Star 1970s version. So again, was it the chicken or was it the egg that came first? I don't know. Maybe some of you that are more diehard Zenith fans might actually know the answer to that question. And if you do, jump in the comments down below and let me know. And matter of fact, if you have had any experiences with the Tissot or the Zenith Defy Classic right here, please jump in the comment section below and let us know. So I'm going to show you just how similar these cases are, because that's what really threw me at first. Now, this watch that I have here on the Tissot, I just put the band on, or the bracelet on, for the very first time. It is unsized. All right, so the Zenith is sized, and it's the big difference here, titanium, steel, right? But look at the cases themselves. Take a really close look at the cases and the similarities. Now, what you're gonna notice here on the Tissot, that is an integrated bracelet. The Zenith, although it looks like an integrated bracelet, it is not. Matter of fact, you can actually remove, the lugs here. You can actually remove the pins, and you can actually put in, they make a rubber strap. It's very similar to, this is the Tissot OEM strap that goes on the Powermatic right here. They make one very similar for the Zenith as well. So I want you to know that. Now, when this was released, this Zenith was released, it also was released with another open, it's kind of like a skeleton version. I forget what they called it. It's like it's a fully exposed movement where you can see it all on the date wheel and everything else, which is pretty cool on the Zenith. Now, the price differences are obviously a lot. I mean, the PRX, you're talking about $700-800 for the PRX retail, where the Zenith comes in around $7,500. You can find it on the gray market right now, like on Joma Shop, for about $6,000. So much different price point, but much different watches. They may look very similar, but again, there's a lot of differences. The key is titanium, right? Polished over here, but the biggest difference is going to be the movements, right? So the Zenith has the Elite 670 movement, beats at 28,800 VPH, 48-hour power reserve, silicone lever, silicone escape wheel. Just an awesome movement. I mean, I know Zenith is usually known for their chronographs. Well, you know, that have gone originally into the Daytonas, but this is obviously a very, very classy sports watch. The Tissot, though, is very classy in its own right, and I should actually just hold these by themselves really quick. The Tissot is pretty classy in its own right, and you can see the lore of this watch and why it has attracted so many watch enthusiasts. When you can have the same basic looks of the Zenith, but have it for a fraction of the cost, you can totally see why people have just absolutely fallen in love with the Tissot. Now, obviously, there's a lot of big differences when you start looking at the dials, like the floating indices over here on the Zenith, and just the refinement. I mean, I can't compare the two and say, you know, wow, the Tissot is better than this. That's just not a fair comparison. But there are so many similarities. I also wanted to show you really quick the diameter of the case. Now, the Zenith is a little bit bigger from what I understand. You're going to see it's about a 41 millimeter case, you can see that. But with the Tissot, it is a 40 millimeter case. You can see it's 40 millimeters, right? So it's just a slightly smaller. You know, considering this watch was from a few years ago, back in 2018, this watch is from 2021. As the trends have been moving towards smaller watches, that makes a lot of sense. Even though there's a lot of similarities, Tissot maybe said, well, let's go back towards our roots with the vintage Tissot C-Star, stay more in line with that and more modern trends, or a newer trend rather. I wouldn't say modern trend, but a newer trend. But you can see the bezels are really different. We have polishing on the outside here on the Zenith, but brushing on the very top, and where the Tissot just goes with a purely polished bezel, which gives it more of a classy look, more of a sport look, in my opinion. So you got more classy, more sport, obviously a little different. The cases, take a look at the similarities and how similar the cases are. I'm going to try not to bang them up against each other, but believe it or not, the Zenith is like 0.2 millimeters thinner than the Tissot, but both come in sub 11 millimeters. That's why this is such an attractive piece. The Tissot, again, for the price point, you've got a thin case, very similar to the Zenith, right? Very similar to the Zenith, but and it may not be quite as thin, but boy, this thing will slip right underneath a cuff. So does the Zenith, obviously. It's, very, very much an awesome, iconic sports watch in its own right. Now, both crowns are non-screw down, but both watches have 100 meters of water resistance. The Tissot, though, one of the best benefits of having this watch that I've experienced owning this watch is it's got maybe an inferior movement. I know a lot of people will say, well, it's just the Powermatic 80 movement. And it's got 80 hours of power reserve, but no silicone, escape wheel and silicone lever. But the Powermatic 80 comes in on some of the higher end watches, and they put in some silicone components and just a little bit more expensive of a watch. But you can see, obviously, the level of detailing. You can't even compare the two watches. I mean, I'd love to give you a little bit closer up view, and maybe if I can get some footage of them both, I will. But you can't compare the two as far as what the movements go and what they look like and the finishing, but you can see they both have so many similar characteristics. The finishing, let's talk about the finishing here. The Tissot, very, very awesome bracelet. Even though I've not worn this bracelet, it is unsized. It also is, because I've worn one on my wrist at a Red Bar event, it's very, very comfortable. What's more impressive is actually when you put it on the rubber strap. Super, super comfortable. And this is the OEM rubber strap as well. The Zenith, though, when you put it on your wrist, and you'll see some wrist shots here, is also extremely comfortable because the bracelet is so well engineered, both of them, where they don't pull arm hairs. And I have fairly hairy arms, and I just don't get that sensation with either one of these watches, which is awesome, obviously. You can see the finishing between, like, you look at the Zenith and the dial, how just dynamic it is. The raised silver star, the Zenith logo, the raised hour markers. You know, the date is at 6 o'clock, but by the way, if you go with the skeleton version, which is, I think it's about $500 more than this version, the date wheel is actually at 12. And by the way, I think the skeleton model of the Zenith is that's the way that I would go personally. You know, sign crown, and again, the movement and the rotor, the signed rotor, well, the skeletonized and detailed rotor, and the movement itself is just spectacular. You put this under a loop and what you see is just pure beauty with the Zenith, right? Perlage work underneath the butterfly clasp. As you've seen it on my wrist already, just a really wonderful wearing watch. I do want to show you something about the differences between the Zenith and the Tissot, but I'll just take a real quick look at the Tissot really fast. I know this is not a full review, but you do get a signed crown, right? Not a screw down crown. The case back, I think, and I'm not 100% sure because I'm not going to remove it. I think it's just a pop on, pop off case back. It doesn't look like it's a screw in. There's no screw down area, so I think it just pops off. Anyway, but you can see the movement is obviously unrefined. It's a swatch group movement. It's nothing special. But if you're a new watch enthusiast and you are just getting into watches, it's beautiful, right? I mean, at least you get to see the movement, which is really cool. Again, the case finishing, you can't really compare the two, but with the Tissot, you get some beveled edges, on the case, which is nice. But in the Zenith, it just feels so much more premium. I mean, unless you've got the two hand in hand, it's hard to explain just how premium feeling this is. And you can see the beveling across the bracelet, just beautiful. Zenith printed right on the butterfly case. Now Tissot is printed as well. There's not perlage work, but there's a little bit of bead blasting, I guess, maybe in the butterfly clasp. But you can see Tissot marked up right on the end here. So one of the other things I wanted to leave you guys with really quick is I want to show you that although the Zenith is titanium, you'd be surprised. It's not as light as you would think compared to the Tissot. So let's start with the Zenith. I'm trying to get a focus here. Well, it doesn't really matter, right? You've seen it. I'll put it back in focus here in a second. 104 grams. That's with a sized bracelet. Now this is the Tissot unsized bracelet, 138 grams, 137, excuse me. So if you took off a couple links, what does that leave you with? Maybe 133 grams, maybe a gram, half a gram a link. Well, my opinion is, and probably one of the big, benefits of having a Tissot is you get the basic look of a beautiful blue, in this case, blue sports watch. You have very thin profile. Look at the links and how thin those are. Even compared to the Zenith links, these are thicker and a little beefier. So you got beefier, links here, but you got a similar look. 80 hours of power reserve on the Tissot, and it doesn't weigh much more than the titanium Zenith. So the comfort is really there. I mean, you put either one of these watches, they just completely disappear on your wrist. And for a lot of people, that's a home run. And at this price point, you can understand why the Tissot is so popular. However, the Zenith, super iconic. Again, this is not a comparison, this one's better than that one type, because it's just not fair between these two watches. But I wanted just to show you the similarities, and then you can answer the question, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Guys, if you've made it this far, let me introduce myself. My name's Blake. I'm a bit of a watchaholic, if you can't tell. And if you made it this far, I'm pretty much gonna guarantee you are a watchaholic too. So if you like this video, you like this content, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episode. And I wanna thank you for spending your most valuable time. The most valuable thing you have that you own is your time. Thank you for spending with me. I do appreciate you. I'll see you in the next video.